After 2 book story in the north, it's time for Will to return home. Well, apparently we're heading to the north again. But let's take a look at the 5th book in this 11 book series, not accounting for Brother Band, like that's a spin-off, and Royal Ranger, which is like continuation after Ranger's Apprentice. And this is so far the longest book in the series. And the rest of them, well, okay, book 6 is gonna be about this length too, and then they're gonna be long, which I don't mind. I'm excited for that. But let's talk about this one. The 5th installment stands at a respectable 4.3-ish out of 5 on Goodreads, with almost 80,000 ratings and 2,300 reviews, which is really, really good. Now, I do agree that the book gets better with time, but we also have to keep in mind that the people reviewing these here are most likely already fans of the series in a way. Because if you don't like the books, you wouldn't continue on to the 5th book. So it's kind of like screwing it a little bit. Of course you can say, I like the series, I didn't like this specific book like I did with the 3rd one. But, I mean, yeah. Also, a fun fact. Apparently in the most of the world, it is Sorcerer in the North. However, the US version, it's Sorcerer of the North, from what I can tell. Which is funny because I bought this one in Germany. So, I guess I just bought the US version in Europe, from what I can tell. It's kind of weird, but hey, I'll take it. Now let's take a look at the cover. It stays with the same framing as the other books have, which is this. And I appreciate that. I love when a series kind of looks the same. So we only have like the picture changing. And as with nearly every other cover that I have, we have Will standing in his cloak. But in the background we get this shadowy monster with multicolored light, which is a major theme, characterization, plot beat in the story. And then there's the forest that, of course, is supposed to remind you of the cold, like in northern England, like at the border to Scotland. So yeah, that checks out. It's not a special cover by any means, but it's not harmful either. And you aren't in doubt that it's a Ranger's Apprentice book. And I feel like when you're on the 5th book, that's almost more important than the book selling, because you know it's the Ranger's Apprentice. You're buying it's the 5th book. You just need to, be sure about it almost, like in a way, I guess you can say. So after the larger story of the 2 previous books, it then feels great to slow it down a little. This low stakes first part feels exactly like what we needed to not have dumb power creep like a shonen anime. And the time skip after Will has gotten the silver leaf is a little saddening in a way, but it also makes sense. It was obvious he would pass, so there wouldn't be any stakes. You could argue that the stakes would be, oh, how does he solve the problem? And that would be interesting. But in a whole, I don't think it's too bad for the story overall. We didn't get to see it. I love the main problem is the Scandians, and because Will understands them so well, they aren't really a problem. And they aren't planning on raiding, but they don't want to die. So I can understand that it does serve like as a great reminder for the Baron and the Battlemaster that there's a reason why Will is a ranger and why they should keep their soldiers trained properly. But then what I like about it is the Scandians are technically not a threat, but we do still see them as being kind of scary. And so even though Will deals pretty easily with them, it's not like it was a guaranteed success. So I like it a lot because it still adds some tension, but it's still pretty low stakes compared to the previous story. Now a scene I specifically want to highlight is when Alyss comes and Dahlia is there with Will. Will is like 20 or something and never had a girlfriend. He lived for 5 years with an old grumpy man, so can you blame him? And he has no social skills when it comes to chicks. He has no idea what he's doing and is missing a lot of clues and hints. And I thought that was fun and great. And actually, as a guy with 0 social skills who has no idea how he got a girlfriend, relatable. I don't know what the fuck. Okay, I mean, yeah, it is kind of relatable, but okay. Also, the seeing Alyss is great. I want us to spend more time with the other ward kids, so I also want George and Jenny, I think their names were. But I'm glad we got to see some Alyss first and foremost. And finally, Will has a dog, and the circumstance for which he got it is horrible, but the dog is cute, and I want more dog and talk action. Now we get to the main story. At the end of the previous section, Will was told he was heading north. Again, just gonna point it out, a map would be nice. He's disguised as a jungler, since he in the time skip had learned to play the mandolin, which everybody calls a violin, I think it was. We have to go like, oh wait, that was a verse. If there's a verse, that means Will was singing, and that means he's playing the mandolin. Oh, Joe Smoke. Oh yeah, that's a funny gag. Because he, like, Old Joe Smoke's like this folk song that they allow them to sing. And then Will apparently changed the third verse to be about Holt, and I love it. I think it's so fun. Yeah, they call it a lute. So, yeah. Then afterwards we get after literally pretty much what I just showed, we get a little exposition about the sorcerer and the history of the place, but mainly we get to see how Will's jovial and friendly personality would make him a great entertainer. And I like the dog, but if he's a little too well trained, but also makes sense not spending too long on training the dog. It would ruin the pacing and it isn't that relevant. But still, a couple of lines here and there of him and the dog learning about each other would be nice, and just seeing the dog not always right away getting what he's trying to convey. I do like the first evening in the tavern though. We're skipping a bit ahead because I don't want to spoil too many details of the individual details. But the first evening in tavern, where we get to see Will as a jungler, and he shows us that he is the half bad. Also, and this is a big fault for these books. Whenever I read them, I want coffee. We get Alyss to come and join the adventure, which is good. It would be a shame if her only power was to bring Will a message in the beginning. And speaking of Alyss, she is the right person to add to the theme, since this book is more of a mystery in a way than the others. And given Horus isn't the brightest for this, Holt is too easily recognized, and Cassandra is the princess. Alyss then by proxy the best person for this. Also, you know, gotta get some little romance for my boy. My boy is 20, he's an adult, he should be able to talk with a girl. He can, shit, but we get there. I also like the Lord is a red hair. Spoiler for all of them. I like the Lord is a red herring, and it's his popular cousin that seemed to be the bad guy. Of course, it isn't a big revelation in the world, nor is it cleverly hidden, but I still prefer the red herring. I think it makes a lot of sense that if you try to gain control of a countryside, you want to win the love of the people. And finally, sending in Horns is just a classic move now. We can't have an adventure without Will's version of Lancelot, can we? I think that isn't it called a Lancer? I think it's called a Lancer, the role Horus is playing. Not that I mind, but I wouldn't mind if he sat out a story or two. Especially given he's a full knight now, and probably has a lot of other duration. So yeah, I also think it would just add in time for Will and Alyss to get to know each other more, and maybe get some more characterization. On the other hand, Horus, pretty cool dude, I like him. So yeah, let's get to the rest of the book. So firstly, we got the escape with Orman. It was fine, it served its purpose, and it did have some stakes, even though you would never doubt that all three would be fine. And then we have the visit to Malcolm's place. Now that was great. We got to see Will once again in need of checking his bias and also his imagination. Malcolm seems way more like a monk to me than a wizard in the way that he's described. Like a traditional monastery monk, basically. Because he has the brown robe and wasn't he described as like balding or something like that? I don't know. To me, it just screams Malcolm. Also, the people living with Malcolm, I can't tell if the book here is outdated or not, due to how people are described. But it does take place in like the 900s to about 1000 England. So this book seems to draw inspiration from that, which is fine. And it's not like they are shown in a bad light. It's just, in 2024, it feels a little off-putting in a way. But on the other hand, it's not too bad. And the final thing, I am glad Alyss isn't a typical damsel in distress. She is way more of a damsel than Cassandra has been, or was. But it might be because we get more of Alyss's POV than we did of Cassandra when she was a slave. But she's still, like, Alyss is strong-willed and not completely hopeless, but then there's the entire hypnotizing thing that makes her hopeless, and it's just, I can't really decide for myself if I like her or not. But yeah, I think it's fine. A little too damsel in distress characteristic for me, but otherwise I think relatively harmless. This is the start of another 2-book story, but this time we start out super chill with some low stakes stuff. I love the first 12 chapters. They're so chill and we get some funny and relaxing moment. I wish we got more of that. I wouldn't mind an entire book like that. We just got Will chilling and dealing with minor things. But we don't. The rest of the book builds up to a larger story in the next one. And that story seems fine. It doesn't seem too wild. It's still quite low stakes compared to the previous story, which is nice. We know there's an extremely important thing to resolve, but the actual conflict on a scale is way smaller than an invasion, because this is not, the story's not building up for Will to defend against an invasion. He's gonna be preventing it. So even though the stakes are about the same, the way it's like the scaling of the series, like of the situation, is different. And Will is the only ranger this time, and we don't have Horace to help him from the start. So scaling down means we don't have this dumb Shonen Jump power scaling problem that like Dragon Ball, Naruto, and so on can have. Because with the invasion of Scandia, we had like both Holt and Will. We had 2 rangers, we had Horace. For now we only have Will with Horace on the way, so of course we're gonna scale it down so they can fix it themselves. And adding a dog to the story is good. I didn't talk much about it, but I like the dog thing. She ended up being called Shadow. I think it adds a lot of character to Tuck. I think of it as Took. And also gives us some more characters for Will to talk and interact with. Also, Shadow is pretty cute. 10 out of 10 there. Talking of new characters. Well, new. Alyss is making her first appearance as more than just a girl Will is in love with. And let me tell you, I am sad, now that I think about it, that she is almost just a damsel in distress. I'm glad she's more proactive, but I'm sad she's a damsel in distress. I want her in the next one to be more of an active character and play a grander role. But it's great to see, just to see her. I kind of want her to be a little more like Cassandra, but more lady than tomboy. So kind of like Cassandra in activeness, but Alyss in grace, I suppose you could say. This is probably the second worst Ranger's Apprentice book so far. And the only one that's worse than this one is the 3rd book. But please bear in mind, it's still miles better than the 3rd book, this one. This is just not as good as the others. So far for me, the best one is the 4th one. But if you read the other 4, you should continue the series. It's still good. Next time we're going to take a look at Guard of Vengeance by Giles Christian. So leave a like, comment and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Let's just...